the kind of vote fixing they did for Chavez.
Barely say it, let alone believe it.
Assuming is the election will be normal. The election will not be normal. Oh, these are the California results? Sorry, we're not accepting them. We're challenging them in court. If the electors show up at the Electoral College...
This is Roger Stone. He is a no dirty tricks operative for the Republican Party. Roger Stone was pardoned by Donald Trump for lying to federal investigators during an investigation into the actions of Donald Trump. These statements were made prior to the 2020 presidential election. These statements indicate that the big lie was planned to keep Donald John Trump in power and ram the electoral process and the peaceful exchange of power right up the American people's ass.
Count ballots in Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin over alleged election fraud. In a statement, the Supreme Court says Texas has not demonstrated a judicially cognizable interest in the manner in which another state conducts its elections. All other pending motions are dismissed as moot. The Texas Republican Party chairman has responded, suggesting law-abiding states should form a union. In a statement, Alan West says this decision establishes a precedent that says states can violate the US Constitution and not be held accountable. This decision will have far-reaching ramifications for the future of our constitutional republic. Perhaps law-abiding states should bond together and form a union of states that will abide by the Constitution.
The big lie had many small parts created and promoted by small-minded people.
The kind of vote fixing they did for Chavez.
Barely say it, let alone believe it. You have lived a life where you were fundamental to the operation of justice on the federal level, okay? You've held the jobs and been in key components of the authority structure of what is now under scrutiny. If anybody else were sitting in that chair making these arguments, I'd just deal with the arguments. But when Rudy Giuliani says stormtroopers, when Rudy Giuliani says that there is dirty at the top and that they would set a perjury trap and that these people are out to get him.
Judge Ellis said that.
You have spent decades of my life telling me when I would come to you personally and say, oh, the government, oh, look at their surveillance, look what they're doing. You said, these are the best men and women we have.
The law, John Eastman.
Did Dr. Eastman admit in front of the president that his proposal would violate the Electoral Count Act?
Mr. Eastman acknowledged that that was the case, that even what he viewed as the more politically palatable option would violate several provisions, but he thought that we could do so because in his view the Electoral Count Act was unconstitutional.
Being conducted in Georgia about the president's role in trying to fix or switch or bag.
News media, turn your cameras, please, and show what's really happening out here, because these people are not going to take it any longer. They're not going to take it any longer. Go ahead, turn your cameras, please, would you show? They came from all over the world, actually, but they came from all over our country. I just really want to see what they do. I just want to see how they cover it. I've never seen anything like it. But it would be really great if we could be covered fairly by the media. The media is the biggest problem we have as far as I'm concerned. Single biggest problem. The fake news and the big tech. Big tech is now coming into their own. We beat them 4 years ago. We surprised them. We took them by surprise. And this year, they rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before. And by the way, last night they didn't do a bad job either.
Allegedly, Trump would be the first U.S. president to incite a riot for the purpose of obstructing the peaceful transfer of power, a basic tenet of democracy.
People coming from multiple directions, and it looks like they, first it was the office buildings, then it was the Capitol, and then it was getting up to the doors of the chambers. And again, the chambers are some of the most, well-reinforced spaces in the entire country, but you're in a situation right now where...
Mike and James know this, when the vice president comes to the House for any reason, comes to Congress for any reason, there's a security perimeter cops around it. It was more than that, but not dramatically more. I mean, I think there would have.
Is that going to work? Are we going to be able to leave and all the mob will be gone from the Capitol area and go back to their homes or wherever they originated from? Is that going to happen?
Multiple investigations were immediately opened concerning the Jan 6th Capitol riots. The most aggressive was the Congressional Select Committee. Until the Department of Justice decided to get off its ass, the Select Committee was responsible for showing the country how close we came to the end of democracy.
Perspective, I wonder how much you think about the human nature of the institutions that ultimately are the guardrails that hold things in place.
Well, the rule of law is an edifice that is populated by real human beings. And so the character of our judges and the character of the people who get involved in every level of government, local, county, state, federal, is of essential importance. That's why elections are so critically important in a democratic society.
Conservative activist and wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas met today with the January 6th Select House Committee. Her lawyer stressed it was a voluntary interview, even though members of the panel have wanted to speak with her for some time about her involvement in efforts to overturn the 2020 election results, including text messages to the White House Chief of Staff begging him to keep fighting the results, and to state lawmakers in Arizona and Wisconsin encouraging them to meddle in their respective states' slates of presidential electors. CNN's Jamie Gangel joins us live. And Jamie, what do we know about her testimony today? And remind us again why she is perceived as such an important witness.
So can we just say how remarkable it is just to see that picture of the wife of a Supreme Court justice coming in to testify for the January 6th committee. We have learned that she had a prepared statement, in fact, at the top of her interview, in which she made clear she addressed that her election activities were separate from her husband. So she...
Hey, what's up? Look, we can stretch this out and go on and on and on, because everything until it gets into a court of law, or until somebody confesses, or until the public opinion just gets so strong on one side or the other, it's just an accepted given that so-and-so is guilty or not guilty. In this case, allegedly, the evidence is pretty strong that there may be some connection between what Clarence Thomas, an associate justice, the longest seated justice on the Supreme Court, how he rules in his opinions, and how his wife, a lawyer with her own company that represents far right-wing conservative, Federalist Society type cases that go before the Supreme Court, that get argued before her husband, that he has input on the final decision, and these final decisions shape and affect the laws that are valid or invalid in this country. You can't tell me that when you have a far right-wing advocate of a wife, an active advocate of a wife. Ginni Thomas helped organize the Stop the Steal rally. She provided logistics that got buses paid for to bring these people from far reaches at the command of Donald Trump. Now, whether she knew whether it was going to turn into a riot or not, whether she knew whether democracy was going to be overturned or not, that's a question. But her participation, even by her own admission, is obvious. And now, a year and a half later, after all the big lie stuff has been debunked by anybody that's credible for anything, including power figures from Donald Trump's own administration, people that she dealt with, like Bill Barr, have said that there was not enough organized, systematic electoral fraud to change the outcome of the 2020 election. Joe Biden, irregardless of what Trump may say, irregardless of what all the MAGA idiots may say, irregardless of what fucking Ginni Thomas may believe, is the undeniable, legitimate president of the United States. He beat Donald Trump in a legitimate and fair election to earn that right. The people granted him the privilege of being president of the United States by over 7 billion something votes. Look, when you get so full of yourself, when you get so full of your position and you use your husband's position, your husband is part of the third keystone branch of American government, the judicial branch, and he sits at the pinnacle on the Supreme Court of the United States, and you are a right-wing activist, don't you think that his name opens doors for you? Don't you think his name gets you into corners and places that normally, even though you are a high-powered lawyer, you wouldn't be able to go on your own? I am the wife of Supreme Court Associate Justice Clarence Thomas, Ms. Virginia Thomas. Listen to what the fuck I got to say, or listen to what me and my husband can do for you, perhaps allegedly for some little green in our pockets. Well, I mean, it's all a theory. It may even be a conspiracy theory. I don't know, but it's worth thinking about. That's it for now. Goodbye. See you later. God bless and peace out from Uncle Ricky at Uncle Ricky's house.